afternoon? Who knows? I left off. Good night. Let's do the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan haTorah. Amen. Praise the you, Adonai God, King of the universe, who gives the Torah of truth and the good news of salvation to his people Israel, and to all the peoples through his Son Yeshua the Messiah our Lord. Amen. Amen. Right, Passover, installment number 3. We're going to pick up where we left off last week. Vince went through, I think we went through 4 plagues. But before I start, something came to me yesterday when I was reading through, because I read through the entire thing again. And in Exodus 5, for those of you that know the story, we have Moshe and Aaron going up to Pharaoh, and they say to Pharaoh, "Hey Pharaoh, God says, let my people go." And what does he say? This is the first time they're going up, right? What does he say to them? He says, "What the heck is wrong with you? It's not going to happen. You want to take them? Who's going to be doing the work?" Next paraphrased version. Who's going to do the work? It's not going to happen. We're actually going to increase the load. The taskmasters go to Pharaoh. They get called to Pharaoh. They go there, and Pharaoh basically tells them that, and they get upset. And this just painted a really important picture in my mind, that Pharaoh and Aaron have been sent by God and basically are trying to intercede for the people on their behalf. And they're going to the person that's in power and they're interceding and they're saying, "Listen, let the people go, they're battling, they need to go worship God." And what happens for them? Things get tougher. We actually see their workload increase. And I've seen this before, where we pray for people and we ask God, "Please, let your will be done, but lighten the load, let it be easier, open doors, do something for them so they can see you." And things get worse. And you're like, "What just happened?" And they come to you and they're like, "I thought you were going to pray for me." I did pray for you, I promise. I just lost my job, I just lost my money, everything just fell apart. I'm like, look, just be patient. And I can imagine how Moshe and Aaron must have felt here, because Moshe went to God and he's like, "What happened? You told me to go help them. And these guys now pretty much want to kill us." That's how angry they are with us. So if you've ever prayed for someone and you see things actually getting worse, just hold on, just be patient, because maybe it has to get worse before it actually gets better.
And duck.
No, just duck, yeah. Pray and run. Yeah, I just thought I'd start with that. Okay. I wanted to come out a little bit early to write on the board all the plagues, but we'll just go through it quite quickly. I want to go through the plagues, the rest of the plagues. I'm not going to go through the first 4, because we did that last week. I'm just going to touch on the next 6 and highlight 1 or 2 and really go over it, because I want to get to the imagery of Passover itself. Next week we're going to tackle New Testament links, how Yeshua sort of is the Passover lamb, all of those good things. Today we're going to focus on imagery and the build up to Passover. Okay? So if you want to follow along, I'm going to start in Exodus 8. Exodus 8 verse 20. And yours, well, let's make it, yours could be Exodus 8 verse 16, where it says God spoke to Moses. Adonai spoke to Moshe. No. That one's the 4th one. Go to 20. Your 20. 8 verse 20. Adonai said to Moshe, "Get up early in the morning, stand before Pharaoh when he goes out to the water, and say to him, 'Here is what Adonai says, let my people go so that they can worship me. Otherwise, if you won't let my people go, I will send,' what? Swarms of insects." Okay? No, that thing's not live. "Swarms of insects on you, your servants and your people, and into your houses. The houses of the Egyptians will be full of swarms of insects, and likewise the ground they stand on. But I will set apart the land of Goshen." Right, so this is the first time we see, I'll get to you now, Mark. This is the first time we see a differentiation. What is the first 3 plagues about? Plagues 1, 2, and 3 What were they quickly?
Blood, frogs.
We had the Nile into blood. Frogs. Lice. And this one? Swarms of insects. Flies. Okay, let's just put insects. Okay, what was the point of plagues 1, 2, and 3? There's points for plagues 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then
kind of introduce himself, saying there's someone bigger than me.
right, to prove he is real, right? Prove he is real. And how does he do that with those plagues? He shows himself up, he kills the god of the Nile. I don't say their names. He shows the frogs, destroys their frog god. The lice is another god of theirs. We can actually put them down here. I'll put them in small letters. This one is this guy. They don't get capital letters in my books. This one is this. Have this or that. And the god of the insects to them was a god called this funny name. He used to live in the reeds. You'd have these flies then coming up out of the reeds. He's painting a picture. He's again saying, this time, but for the plague number 4, 5, and 6, I'm going to separate. I'm going to separate between Egyptians, or people that are with me, without me, and people that are with me. It actually says, verse 22, but I will set apart the land of Goshen, where my people live. No swarms of insects will be there, so that you can realize that I am Adonai right here in the land. Yes, I will distinguish between my people and your people, and this sign will happen by tomorrow. And we see the swarms of insects come. Pharaoh freaks out and he's like, look, go and sacrifice. I'm at 25. Go and sacrifice to your God here in the land. But Moshe replied, it would be inappropriate for us to do that because the animal we sacrifice to our God is an abomination to the Egyptians. Won't the Egyptians stone us to death before their very eyes if we sacrifice what they consider an abomination? No, we will go 3 days' journey into the desert and sacrifice to Adonai God as he ordered us to do. Pharaoh said, I will let you go so that you can sacrifice to Adonai your God in the desert. Only you are not to go very far away. Intercede on my behalf. Moshe said, all right, I'm going away from you, and I will intercede with Adonai so that tomorrow the swarms of insects will leave Pharaoh, his servants, and his people. Just make sure that Pharaoh stops playing games with the people. And what we see later, 20 on 32, is Pharaoh made himself stubborn and didn't let the people go. The point here, and what we need to have in our mind, God's painting this picture for everyone. I'm here, I'm real, I have come. You guys cried out, I've arrived. Hello, have I got your attention? Cool. Now we're going to start showing you this plan. We're going to take you from where you were sort of assimilated into Egypt. Now I'm going to start separating you. Okay, and this picture plays out nicely. Mark, sorry, I forgot to come back to you. Is your point still relevant?
Yes.
Tell me.
With the Amplified, it says of blood-sucking gadflies, so it went further than just swarms of bugs. It went to the point of mosquitoes.
It's actually a mixture of insects.
Could I just ask a question there? On your point number 4, the God you say they worship, they came from there, was from the reeds, effectively. And that's, well, technically Moses was also from the reeds.
Yes, but
So
there's no flies flying out of him.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there's a false God or non-existent God which comes out of the reeds, and then you're always saying, I'm bringing my messenger, who technically arose from the reeds.
It's a nice picture. Yeah. Anti versus real,
Yes.
right? Very nice. Okay. Exodus 9 starts off and we see the disease on livestock. Okay. It says here, Then Adonai said to Moshe, go to Pharaoh and tell him, here is what Adonai, the God of the Hebrews, says. Let my people go so that they can worship me. If you refuse to let them go and persist in holding on to them, the hand of Adonai is on your livestock in the field. The livestock to the Egyptians was, what did it represent to them?
Wealth.
Wealth. He's saying, if you don't continue, your wealth is going to be affected. Okay? The death of the livestock is going to affect your wealth. And it says here, on the horses, the donkeys, the camels, the cattle, and the flocks, and and will make them suffer a devastating illness, so they will die. But Adonai will distinguish between Egypt's and Israel's livestock. Nothing belonging to the people of Israel will die. So Israel's wealth, the Hebrews' wealth, is not going to be affected. Again, the separation. I'm going to pull you out. I'm going to start pulling you out. This is the picture that he's painting. I'm going to start pulling you out of Egypt, out of bondage. Where do we get that from? Mitzrayim. I'm going to start pulling you out of Mitzrayim. That's what Mitzrayim means, bondage. That was the name for Egypt. And I'm going to start doing things in your life. I'm going to show you that I'm real. I'm going to start separating you. And this comes up in a major way later. Right. So it says here. Where was 5. Adonai determined the exact time tomorrow. Adonai will do this in the land. The following day, Adonai did it. All the livestock of Egypt died, but not one of the animals belonging to the people of Israel died. Pharaoh investigated and found that not even one of the animals of the people of Israel had died. Nevertheless, Pharaoh's heart remained stubborn, and he didn't let the people go.
So, where did the livestock come from that died with the firstborn dead? All the livestock died in number 5.
Say again.
And number 10, when the firstborn died, even the cattle died. So if all the livestock died in number 5, how did livestock die in number 10?
They would have gone and taken cattle from Egypt.
Egypt had its reaches far, all over the place.
So it was only the cattle and livestock that was actually in that region there.
Possibly, possibly not. Okay, so this is only, it says here, where does it say? Cattle. Someone else? Horses, donkeys, camels, cattle, and flocks. You also have to ask yourself the question, how did the chariots ride after them later, right? So last year when we had that question, my understanding is, okay, maybe Egypt went to neighboring territories, got their stuff and brought it in. We don't know the full picture, it doesn't really matter. What we do know is that it's painting, like God does and like the Hebrew people have, they have an understanding in pictures. It's not like our Greek understanding. It's true and false with us, with them there's a picture and it's worth 1,000 words. Okay? You can say cattle and it can mean a lot of stuff to them. It can mean provision, it can mean meat, it can mean sacrifice or offering, it can mean wealth. So he's painting a picture to them, he's saying, you know what, this is going to have, your cattle is going to have to die. But in actual fact, look what I'm telling you. I'm taking away wealth. I'm starting to remove wealth from you. And it gets worse for them, we see. Okay? Another nice thing about this. I don't know if I should add to this. Why? Right. Why a bull? What is? We have a picture of a bull a few times, to put it lightly, in the Bible. We have a bull or a calf a few times. One of their gods, you can answer now, Mark, I'll let you answer. One of their gods was this guy. And he had a few other names. Okay, we're not going to go into all the names, but he was the god of?
The bulls.
Right.
It was one of their main deities.
Right, it was the god of slavery. And it also was one of their main deities. You know, in Egyptian theology, you had gods, and you can take that god and you can make it a hybrid with another god, and then it means something different. Very similar to Greek and Roman sort of theology. However, this specific one, we see play out a few times. Fast forward to Mount Sinai. What happened at Mount Sinai?
Golden calf.
Yeah.
And Moses broke all 10 commandments at once.
Right. Correct. You have Aaron, Moshe's up in the clouds having a whale of a time with God. Everyone else is downstairs And they start freaking out. And they're like, you know what, Moshe is probably dead. Let's make a god for us. And what do? They take all their earrings, gold earrings, and put it in the fire, and Aaron fashions a calf out of it. Moshe comes down and is like, Aaron, what the heck is this? And he's just threw it in, and it popped out. And the calf just sort of came out from the fire. Why a calf though? Have you ever asked yourself that? Why a calf? Why did they make a calf? They were in Egypt so long, and they had the god of slavery above them, which was a bull. It was a bull. And in Egyptian understanding, and even in pagan understanding, if you have a look at the pagan god, the Phoenician god, this guy, he's sometimes pictured standing on a bull, riding this bull with lightning in his hand, arrows in his hand. God's again painting this picture. He's saying, you know what? Number one, I'm killing all those gods, they're not real. They're definitely not real. Number two, the thing that was sort of lording over you is now gone. But again, they make that mistake later on. And it even happens again after Aaron. Yeah?
I think they also have the same crisis we have, where they want to belong. Because I know that earrings in those times mean possession, who you belong to. Pretty much how you think of cattle, branding cattle today. If they had earrings that would say who they belong to. So they wanted to belong to something that obviously didn't feel yet that they belonged to God. And they just wanted this in their own strength and understanding, wanting to belong like they used to belong in Egypt.
Yeah. Look, the thing is as well, you know, people want to fashion something into a god for themselves. You know, whether, and this is idolatry, right? This is how we get to the term idolatry, and that's why God always wanted to steer us away from idolatry. What was in the Holy of Holies? What was in God's Holy of Holies? It was a seat. It was empty. There was nothing there that resembled Him. Because we cannot fashion that. In Egypt, in their temples, they would have things to worship. Physical, tangible things. Israel, the Hebrews, they had nothing. They had a tabernacle where they would go meet with God. But in the Holy of Holies, who was allowed in there? One guy. Once a year. They never saw what was in there. They worshipped something invisible. Okay, and again, we have this playing out with Jeroboam and Rehoboam later on. They kept making the same mistakes. What happened with Jeroboam and Rehoboam?
The made strange fire.
No, that's Nadav and Abihu.
Was that the king?
I'm glad you're reading your Torah portion. Well done. Very good.
Was that the king?
Jeroboam, Rehoboam. Rehoboam was Solomon's son. Okay. Solomon died, and Rehoboam went and consulted his father's wise men, and they said to him, look, if you want to win over the people, bring down the taxes, just relax a little bit. And then he goes to his friends. And what does his friends say?
The exact opposite.
Tell them that your finger is thicker than your father's waist, and that you will rule them with scorpions. Your father ruled you with whips. Well, my father ruled you with whips, I'm going to rule you with scorpions. He took that advice, people didn't like him.
Yeah. So just for the previous point as well, in Deuteronomy 4, God says, therefore diligently guard yourselves, for we saw no form when Jehovah spoke to you at Horeb out of the midst of the fire, lest you do corruptly and shall make for yourselves a carved image in the form of any figure, likeness of male or female. And he goes on, the likeness of any beast and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And don't make any images of him above or below, right?
Sorry, on that, the one teacher that started at our school, she comes from a Christian school.
Yes.
And whenever she puts pictures up for the kids to color, for the aftercare kids to color in, she makes sure that the face of Yeshua isn't in the photo. It's him from behind and things like that. She said it's a sign of respect to not make an image of God. Is that correct?
Well, you're not actually even then really supposed to make an image of Yeshua, as I understand.
Coloring in pictures for little kids.
Yeah, I know, it's difficult, right? Especially when you're trying to teach kids. You're like, let me show you something that I can't show you. But it's tough, but we can figure that one out. So you have Rehoboam and Jeroboam, right? Rehoboam, he listens to his father's, well, he's not his father's wise man, he listens to his friends. And kids, listen up. If your friends are telling you to do stupid stuff, maybe you should listen to people that are wise and not your friends all the time. Your friends will get you to do weird things. Okay? That won't end well with you. For poor Rehoboam, what happened with him? How many tribes went north? They were like, I'm out of here. They left. They go north.
It's your kids.
Who was ruling over them? Jeroboam. You know a nice way to remember Rehoboam and Jeroboam? Because they both sound the same. Just think of, it's a redo of Solomon. Okay, Solomon's child is Rehoboam. Okay, Jeroboam is the other guy. He went up north. He actually was one of Solomon's workers. He worked on the Milo, whatever you want to call it. We don't actually know what that is, but he worked there. Okay, and a man of God went to him and said, look, you're going to rule the 10 tribes. The 10 tribes are going to go with you, which actually happened. He goes north, but what does he do? He makes a golden calf in 2 places. Tell Dan, in Dan, up north, right up north, and in Bethel, pretty close to Jerusalem. Dan means judgment, Bethel, house of God. Okay? Nice picture. But anyway, the point is they were still doing this. Why? Why are they still making golden calves? Surely they've learned their lesson.
He wanted to hold on, he was out of fear. He wanted to hold on to what God had given him.
The problem is Egypt is still in them.
He didn't want them heading down to Jerusalem 3 times a year.
Correct. It actually says that. He said he was scared that they would come down to Jerusalem and then serve Rehoboam because they've got the temple and they've got the Levites and everyone there. He actually made false priests, fake priests. He's like, hey, you want to be a priest? Come. And he also made other high places. It says he made other high places, not just those 2. He made other high places. We don't know what was there, but they were there. The point is that it's easy to be drawn out of Egypt. It was very easy for me, not so easy, but it was easy in contrast to what I had to overcome. It was easy for me to go to church. I was drawn out of Egypt, out of bondage, out of my BC days, and it was easy for me to go sit in church and feel good about myself. Cool, I'm out of bondage, things are looking up, but hey, I'm still doing what I used to do. This is exactly what's going on here. They still fall back on what they understood in Egypt. They were there for a long time. Some people say it was 430 years from the time Abraham received that prediction. Other people say they were actually there for 430 years. It doesn't matter. They were there for a long time. It was a few generations. Okay? In a generation, you can learn a lot of bad things. Mark?
Strange how, when you look at the Gospels, each one paints a different picture of Christ, his attributes, and what role.
Right.
Very strange how a bull or an ox is one of them. Worker, come for a sacrifice.
One of the faces, right? And angels, one of those in Revelations. Next plague. I think we can skip reading this one. This is in Exodus 9, 8 to 12. And it talks about boils. Nice, lovely boils. It was at this point that the magicians couldn't even appear before Moshe. That's how bad their boils were. They were like, I'm not going near that guy anymore. I've had enough of him. We're out of here. You actually see later on, the people are coming up against Pharaoh and going, Pharaoh, just let them go. What's wrong with you? He's like, no. My slaves. My things. Okay? Be careful what you hold on to. Okay? So anyway, we have the boils which sort of targeted a few of their gods, a few of their deities. One of them being this thing. And it's their healing god. So he was deliberately attacking the gods of healing. And then we fast forward a little bit to Exodus 9, 13 to 35. I think I'll skip reading that one as well to save time. We've got quite a bit to get through. The hail. Now we get to the next portion of plagues. What is the point of the next portion? First one is to prove, first 3, prove he is real. Next, distinguish or separate between God's people and not God's people. And the third?
There's no equal.
Yeah, there's no equal to God. No equal. So here we have in Exodus 9 verse 13 to 35 this massive hailstorm coming down, and he basically says, he says to them, he says, look, if you value your livestock, the remaining of your livestock, whatever else you've got, bring them in, bring your people in, because the hail is going to damage and kill everything. And at that time, what was ripe? It tells us what was ripe. The barley was ripe.
It hadn't hardened, it was still liquid in the head.
It was ripe. The flax and barley were ruined because the barley was ripe and the flax in bud. So, students, what time of year is this?
Pesach.
Yeah. Okay, which is when? Nowish. Okay? What I want you to take note of though, it says the barley was ripe already. And then came Pesach after this. Just keep that in the back of your mind, okay? This is one of the reasons why we're doing Passover now. And all the barley must be ripe. Everyone needs to be able to harvest their crops, sort it, store it, clean it, do whatever they need to do with it, and then go up to temple and have a good time. That's the point, okay? You can't go to temple, come back, and then harvest your crops. It doesn't make any sense. But anyway, that's for another day. We have hail. The nice, interesting thing about this little story in this plague is Moses goes to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh says, "Okay, you know what? This is crazy. Please make it stop. Intercede for me." And Moshe says, "Okay," and he goes out into the hailstorm. And he says, "When I go outside the city, I'll intercede for you." So he goes out from Pharaoh's presence, hail's falling, lightning. When it says fire, generally in the Bible it's lightning. Okay, so you have hail and lightning going crazy everywhere. And he walks out, and this is how much faith he has built up.
And those hailstones were not small.
Yeah, we don't really know, but they were destroying cattle. They must have been big enough to destroy cattle. The point is that in the beginning we have Moshe saying, "No, I can't do this. No, I can't do this. Send somebody else. Send somebody else." This is like us in the beginning of our walk, right? There's no ways I'm going to do that stuff. I'm going to keep eating pork. I don't care about Shabbat. No. Now I'm like, you will do Shabbat. The kids don't have a choice. That's the point. Moshe built up so much faith at this point that he was even willing to trust God to walk through that hailstorm and go outside the city and then pray. And that's exactly what he did. And the deities here were a few. There was this one, and another one, something that you wear on your feet. And these were the gods of the sky, the agriculture, the atmosphere. And this must have created a bit of a famine in the land, right?
Yeah, got crops destroyed again.
Yeah, but God's merciful still, and He says that the wheat was still okay, the wheat was still coming up, and the wheat will survive. This reminds me of a story in Acts 11. On Thursday night we're going through Acts, and in Acts 11 there's this weird ending to Acts 11 where there's this guy called Agav. That's his Hebrew name. In your Bible it might be Agabus. Weird. His name means locust. Okay, and he predicted a famine in the Roman Empire. And it came true. At the time of Caligula, when Caligula died, there was enough food in Rome to last a week. Emperor Claudius takes over and he inherits this problem, and he's trying to figure out, what am I going to do? They don't really get it right, because Egypt's Nile flooded so much. You'd think that's a good thing. Not when it's so much that it destroys all their crops. We have Greece, who was also the other major agricultural provider. They had floods, their crops died. And then you have Israel, who were just farmers, if you think about it, right? They're all farmers. Most of the laws about farming. They had their sabbatical year, which means what?
No problem.
They don't harvest anything. So you have Rome really battling. And here you have this guy called Agav. in Acts 11, and he predicts this. God obviously gives him this prediction, this vision, and because of that, they started collecting and collecting money and supplies and all that, and because of them, they managed to disperse out a lot of help
Not just.
for a lot of the people, right? The Talmud calls it the time of scarcity. It was a long time. I think it was 3 years that plague ran. A lot of people died. But there's just, again, in that instance, God was merciful enough to give a prophet a vision about a prediction that he needed in order for them to start gathering food and gathering money in order to help, to be merciful towards the people, and that's exactly what he did.
Just a question in verse 20 of Exodus 9.
Yeah.
He that feared the word of Jehovah among the servants of Pharaoh, making servants and scattered into the house. So even there,
This is
there's
mercy, right?
redemption.
Right.
He's allowing people to separate from Pharaoh and recognize.
Already, yeah?
Yeah.
And I believe that's why we start seeing that mixed multitude that goes up with the Israelites. It wasn't just the Israelites that left. There were some Egyptians in there as well, and I'm pretty sure the Egyptians didn't just have Hebrew slaves, they had other slaves.
Yeah.
So it would have been a multitude of people, of different races, different cultures, different backgrounds, going with the Israelites. Because I promise you, if I was one of those guys, and I was with Egypt, and I saw all of this stuff happening, I would hope my logical brain would then click and say, you know what, this Pharaoh's on something. I'm going with those guys. Okay, right? Makes sense, right?
Side with the Jews, yeah.
Yeah. Jews have got it down. Let's go with them. Okay. So, okay. Then we have the next plague, locusts. And again, that's sort of attack on the agricultural. One of the gods is this.
The terrorist.
Exactly. Okay. Again, Pharaoh confesses in this. We're now in Exodus 10, verse 1 to 20. We're not going to read all of this. But he says, I'm going to bring locusts, something that you've never, the amount is something that you've never seen before, and you never will see again. And these locusts come down and they just eat everything. And everything's gone. Okay? And this is, yeah?
Sorry to interrupt you. You know what I saw when I looked at this a few weeks ago? I saw that God was merciful enough to let floods come up after the hail has destroyed the barley.
Wheat, yeah.
Oh, yeah, so that he still didn't listen. So it looked like God's mercy could also run out when the locusts come and eat the wheat as well. So, you know, if you push long enough and you play with sin long enough, he's going to say, okay, you don't deserve this.
Yeah, I think there's a point. There's a cut-off point for everything, right? And it's a scary concept, right? Because have you really made true teshuvah if you keep doing what you've been doing all this time?
Is that the case of you can harden your heart yourself, and then there comes a point where he hardens your heart.
Right.
And then you recover.
And then that's it, game over, so for you, yeah. Right. Yeah, Holy Spirit when you do. Last one, no, second last one, darkness. This one's got a powerful picture in it, okay? And the plague of darkness.
Oh, and next to it you can put Eskom.
Eshkom. And this was pretty much on this guy. However you spell it, doesn't matter, don't worry. But he was pretty much, this guy was pretty much combined with all the other gods and forming these sort of interconnections with, you know, this guy as well. They sort of combined him, and then you had this bull with this sun over his head. But anyway, the point of this plague is what? Why did he send darkness?
Because that's the sun god.
Okay?
They want the sun god out.
Right. One of the most powerful, well, the most powerful god remaining is now God. Yeah?
There was a really cool YouTube video that did this thing with a powerful light. The whole back was powered, like the whole wall was powered by
Oh, that thing,
lights.
yeah.
And then you take your cell phone, you know your cell phone's got lights on it as well. And then what they did is cool science, I was trying to find the video next. And then you put your cell phone in front, and then the light at the back is so bright that your cell phone looks dark Has anyone seen that?
Yeah, they take the cell phone and put the cell phone light on, just pure white light on the cell phone, and they
Yeah.
hold it again in the camera, and in the camera you can see, wow, that's pretty bright, eh?
Yeah, then they switch
And then
the
all of a
lights
sudden,
on.
this whole thing is actually an LED light, and they put that on, and this actually looks black. So
it's
the light that you were getting from this guy, let me show you, it's pitch black, it's darkness, okay? Yes.
Dad, I don't know if the source is real or not. It could be more a question than a statement. But I heard that this god was actually had a lot of functions to it because they believed that when the sun rises in the east or sets in the west, or the other way around,
Yes.
they believed that the god would die and he resurrect in the morning again, and it would happen every day. And they would also have the depiction of the afterlife with it as well. So it was like their head. It had every.
That's why Pharaoh had to go worship all the time to keep the gods happy. This was why he was at the Nile in the beginning of the story. He was worshipping. He had to worship all these gods. Imagine, that's a full-time job. He didn't want to be Pharaoh. He's like, can I just go be one of those slaves? I get fed better than me. I have to go walk and worship this guy, and then this guy, and then this guy, and then this guy, and then that guy, and then that guy, and that's the guy. Absolute nightmare. It's like, I'm sure the Queen doesn't enjoy her job either. No?
The other side of that is for darkness. There was another one. It was a snake, a god, spelled Apophis, and how the relation. Also, there was a dung beetle one. Forget its name.
Yeah.
How the relationship with that one would work is every day these two, the snake and the sun, would do battle, and whenever the sun rose, it was when the snake regurgitated it.
Lovely.
And
Lovely.
whenever darkness came, it mean he ate it, but again, regurgitation, where this beetle falls into it, is it's the dung beetle. It takes a bunch of dung and pushes it towards the sun all the time. But there was no sun, so it couldn't do it.
No, they warped the theology, but yes. Yes.
So-
Need to hurry up. Yes, go for it.
So,
Yes.
sun gives you the natural vitamin D, which actually makes you feel happy. So I think that if it's that dark, you will fall into depression.
This is it, right? I mean, they couldn't even get up out of bed.
Yes.
So it's this physical darkness, but it's also this sort of mental darkness. I mean, if you've been in dark long enough and you don't want to sleep, it's like you feel heavy. Okay? Depression is heavy on you. It's like you're living in darkness. And you can relate this to your time before you were saved. You're living in the world, you think everything's okay, but you know what? You're stumbling around. You can't actually see where you're going. It was dark for 3 days. Messiah was in the tomb 3 days.
And I think you burned because the locusts ate it all.
Right.
And
So,
even if there was,
it's
you
a
couldn't
hard
see
3
in
days.
front of him, so dark.
Yeah. It's you know what? That must have been, I don't know. This is. If I didn't crack here, I probably would have cracked there because I would have looked out my window, and what would I have seen? Light just on Goshen. But that's all I can see. I can see nothing else.
Go to the light.
Yeah. It probably drew out everyone else that needed to be drawn out. If I never clicked here, I definitely would have clicked there. Okay. Now we get to the actual story of Passover. So let's begin. I don't have a lot of time. Exodus 11. Adonai said to Moshe, I'm going to bring still one more plague on Pharaoh and Egypt, and after that he will let you leave here. When he does let you go, he will throw you out completely. Now tell the people that every man is to ask his neighbor and every woman her neighbor for gold and silver jewelry. Adonai made the Egyptians favorably disposed toward the people. Why is he giving them gold and silver? What are they going to buy in the desert? Is there Nando's?
Nothing.
Take my gold earring, give me a whole chicken.
It's useless to
There's nothing to spend their money on. They weren't going to go buy the land in the Holy Land anyway. They didn't even know they were going there. Yeah, they get all this money, gold, silver, whatever they asked for, they got. Alright. Fast forward, I think it's about 14 chapters later, you have God saying, take up a terumah. The actual portion is called terumah. It's a free will offering. And he said, tell the people, I need you to give. Whatever your heart stirs you to give wholeheartedly, not because you have to, but because you want to. Whatever you wholeheartedly give, they will take. And what did they do with that? Built a place for God to dwell with them. If there was no terumah, there would be no place for him to dwell with them, or to meet. It's a beautiful image. And we see a couple of chapters later, we have Betzalel and Oholiab, and they go to Moshe, and they're like, Moshe, please, can you see this mountain of gold and jewelry? Can you tell the people to stop? And he's like, okay, stop. They were giving so much that Moshe had to tell them, stop giving.
You know what I find interesting about that is like later, you know, the symbolism of it is like, he's actually telling them, I'm redeeming you to righteousness.
Yeah. Exactly. This is where we're getting. This is where we're going. Okay. Moreover, Moshe was regarded by Pharaoh's servants and the people as a very great man in the land of Egypt. So everybody clicked. Okay? Moshe said, here's what Adonai says, about midnight I will go out into Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt will die. From the firstborn of Pharaoh sitting on his throne to the firstborn of the slave girl at the handmill, and all the firstborn of the livestock, there will be horrendous wailing throughout all the land of Egypt. There has never been another like it, and there never will be again. But not even a dog's growl will be heard against any of the people of Israel, neither against people nor against animals. In this way you will realize that Adonai distinguishes between Egyptians and Israel. So we sort of go back. It's a distinguishing wonder, okay? Verse 8, all your servants will come down to me, prostrate themselves before me and say, get out, you and all your people who follow you, and after that I will go out. And he went out from Pharaoh in the heat of anger. Adonai said to Moshe, Pharaoh will not listen to you, so that still more of my wonders will be shown in the land of Egypt. So it's not going to end yet. Okay? Moshe and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh, but Adonai had made Pharaoh hard-hearted, like Element said. And he didn't let the people of Israel leave his land. 12 verse 1. Adonai spoke to Moshe. Okay, I need to volunteer. Oh, thank you. Please come. Come right here for me. So glad you volunteered yourself, my son. Right. And you guys skim through 12. Yeah, this side. You're going to write the imagery. We're going to go through the imagery quickly. Let's just skim through all the imagery of Passover, because this is where we get it from. Exodus 12. What's the first thing that comes up? Speaks to me, people.
Lamb.
How much?
Lamb.
Okay, give me the day first.
10th day.
Well, it says you have to begin your calendar with this month. It will be the first month.
Specific time.
First month, yeah?
First month.
On the 10th.
It will be the beginning of the year for you. Okay? And on what day? Verse 3?
10.
10th day? Underneath. Put it all in a list. Nice and yeah, so we're going to end about here. Okay, so it's the 10th day. Each man is to take his kid.
No.
Oh, okay. For his family, one per household. Okay?
So who?
The lamb. Except that if the household is too small for the whole lamb or kid, then his next door neighbor should share one, dividing it in proportion to the number of people eating it. Your animal must be without defect. Put lamb here. Lamb, and then next one without defect. That's correct, well done, 10 points. Verse 6, you'll keep it until Christmas. No.
Finish it before you.
That's right, quicker sunshine.
Keep it until the 14th day.
Okay, 14th day. You volunteered. Then we will slaughter it at dusk. Twilight. Or dusk. Whatever it's here to spell. Smear the blood. You can start writing here. Smear the blood on the door frame, on the two sides and the top of the door frame. That's weird. We'll get to that.
Just say the doorpost.
Yeah, just put that door. And then it says you are to roast it. But don't worry about that. Just say you'll eat it with matzah. M-A-T-Z-A-H. And maror. Spell that one. Matzah. M-A-T-Z-A-H. And maror. Plus. Maror. M-A-R-O-R. Don't eat it raw or boiled. I don't know who would want to eat the lamb raw, but don't.
Germans.
But roast it in the fire with its head, its lower parts of its legs, and its inner organs. Let nothing of it remain until morning. If any of it does remain, burn it up completely. Just remember that. Yeah. You want to put it in there? Nothing remain?
The same, yeah.
Nothing remain plus voila.
Yeah, the silver is there. The pictures.
Yeah. Nothing remain plus. So your font size is very up and down. Olah. O-L-A-H. We'll get to this. Yeah, comic sense. Here is how you are to eat it. With your belt fastened, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand. You are to eat it hurriedly. Belt, staff, shoes. Belt, staff, shoes. It is Adonai's Pesach. For that night I will pass through the land of Egypt and kill all the firstborn in the land, both men and animals, and I will execute judgment against all the gods of Egypt. I know. I am Adonai. The blood will serve you as a sign, marking the houses where you are, where when I see the blood I will pass over, or Pesach, you. When I strike the land of Egypt, the death blow will not strike you. This will be a day for you to remember and celebrate as a festival to Adonai from generation to generation. You are to celebrate it by perpetual regulation. For 7 days you are to eat matzah. 7 days, matzah. On the first day, remove the leaven from your houses. Leaven. No, leaven. To leave plus name. For 7 days you are to eat matzah. On the first day, remove the leaven from your houses. For whoever eats hametz, or leavened bread, from the first day to the 7th day is to be cut off from Israel. On the 1st and 7th days you are to have an assembly set aside for God. On these days no work is to be done. Thank you, God. Well done. Thank you for volunteering. Okay. Let's continue, yeah? We're running out of time. 17. You are to observe the festival of Matzah, for on this very day I brought your divisions out of the land of Egypt. Therefore you are to observe this day from generation to generation by perpetual, forever, regulation. From the evening of the 14th day of the first month until the evening of the 21st day, you are to eat matzah. During those 7 days, no leaven is to be found in your houses. Whoever eats food with chametz in it is to be cut off from the community of Israel. It doesn't matter whether he is a foreigner. It doesn't matter if it's a foreigner or a citizen of the land. Eat nothing with leaven in it. Wherever you live, eat matzah, bread without yeast in it. Then Moshe called for all the leaders of Israel and said, select and take lambs for your families and slaughter the Pesach lamb. Take a bunch of hyssop. Hyssop. Okay? Take a bunch of hyssop leaves and dip it in the blood which is in the basin and smear it on the two sides of the door frame. Then none of you is to go out of the door of his house until morning. For Adonai will pass through to kill the Egyptians, but when he sees the blood on the top and on the two sides, Adonai will pass over the door and will not allow the slaughterer to enter your house and kill you. You are to observe this as a law, you and your descendants forever. And it goes on and it goes on. And it talks about, keep saying that. And then it talks about how the people took their dough before they become leavened and wrapped in their kneading bowls and in their clothes and on their shoulders, and off they went. Okay?
Safari.
Thus they plundered the Egyptians. Verse 36 says they plundered the Egyptians. Ever wonder what happened to the Egyptians? That's a very good start of that. Okay? And then it also says in 38, a mixed crowd also went up with them. We're going to focus on this quickly, a few of these now. New Testament links, we're going to really just dig into next week. Okay? But what I want to talk about is this. All of this here. You'll actually see it just before. 42 says, this was a night when Adonai kept vigil to bring them out of the land. God was watching. Okay? And this same night continues to be a night for Adonai. Keeps vigil for all the people of Israel through all their generations. And it carries on, no uncircumcised male may eat of it. Do not break its bones. We're going to get into that next week. But let's start with what we have. Okay? So, what we understand from all of this that we've speed read is Passover is to be, you are to begin your year with Passover. It's your first month. Okay? Yeah.
It's the only place you will ever find the word Rosh Hashanah, the start of your year, starts in connection with this.
The head of the year, yeah.
It's the head of the year. It's the only place in Scripture. This is Rosh Hashanah, your New Year starts.
Lovely. And on the 10th day, what must you do? Find a lamb. You go out, you look for a lamb. You keep that lamb with you for 4 days. You inspect that lamb. Make sure there's no defect. It doesn't have 5 legs, 2 tails. And I don't know what happened in Egypt. Make sure it's perfect. Not a blemish, not a spot. That lamb needs to be perfect. We're going to get into this next week. Okay? And on the 14th day, at twilight, which is about 3 o'clock, between the start of the evening and the end of the evening, we have dusk, which is twilight, 3 o'clock around. They slaughter the lamb. They smear the blood on the door. What shape is the door?
It's like cake.
Chet. Right? Chet. And what are they going to do? They're going to smear the blood here and the blood here. And yeah, that's very weird. Listen nicely to me. God told them, take a lamb. Now I can just imagine these people. They've never done this before. Take a lamb, study it for 4 days. You look at that lamb. Try to keep your kids away because they're going to fall in love with it. You look at that lamb, you make sure it's fine. Then all of a sudden you kill it. And you take its blood with a hyssop branch, we'll get to that, and you smear this on a door frame. That's very weird. Even if we did that today, that would be very weird. But what is it telling us?
That the doorway, the path is covered with his blood.
Right. Right. It's the atonement, right? So if you think back, well, we know in those times, in biblical times, you put blood at a doorway, you pass it, it's a threshold covenant. Okay, so this is somewhat painting a picture of covenant. But more importantly, the blood which brings life is protecting your door. It's covering your door. It's covering your house. You are in your house. It's covering you. That's why it says don't get out. You leave that house, your covering is gone.
This is almost also the first time he's asking them to step out in blind faith. This sounds crazy.
It does sound crazy, but everything was crazy before as well. Yeah.
But they didn't really, as
it was voluntary, right?
yes,
You had the choice to do it or not.
or not. But this was,
Yeah.
all of those plagues kind of happened.
Yeah.
Whether you wanted them to or not, they
Yeah.
would have.
That was
This
mandatory.
was the one where you could step out
You
and
could
say
choose.
so far and no further.
And not just the Israelites,
Anybody.
but anybody.
And
If you took that lamb, as weird as it was, and you slaughtered it, and God was painting a picture, remember, He's painting pictures for them because that's how they understood. You take that lamb, they would have known about Abraham and the blood covenants, they would have known how to cut a covenant and all of that sort of stuff. Put it on your door frames, this is going to protect us. As long as we have the blood of the lamb, we are in protection. We will have life. You don't have the blood of the lamb, you do not have life. Next week. Anthony.
So I've got a question. So we all agree that Yeshua was the final sacrifice and this process. But here, whoever said, you shall guard this word as a law to you and your sons forever. Why don't we still do the whole thing?
We're going to get to that next week. We're going to get to that. That's New Testament links.
Because he said,
I don't want to get, yeah. We're going to get to that.
Question.
We're going to get, we see Yeshua as the Passover lamb coming up in Revelations 5. Pops up in the throne room. Oh, here's the Passover lamb. So we know he's the picture of the Passover lamb. We have many pictures of that. Okay?
And he says, don't worry about this anymore. He says, don't do this anymore.
Yeah. And this is a conundrum, right? This is a conundrum where you have this sacrificial system. What's time then? Okay. I'm going to do this next week. I'm going to discuss the sacrificial system next week and its merit. The fact that we don't need to do it anymore is well understood. Okay? But Yeshua paints this picture for us as well. He fulfills this picture, but we're going to get into that. Okay? I just want to finish up on this. If you guys will give me 5 minutes. Okay? Question system. So we have the blood of the Lamb covering us, covering our sin, atoning for us, but this isn't really a sin offering. They're getting protected by the blood of the Lamb, but when we look at this next week, we're going to see it's more of a peace offering than anything else, and I'll explain why. Thus, we slaughter it, we smear the blood. Why are we eating nothing but matzah and maror? What is maror? That's weird. Bitter herbs. Why are we eating this? Okay, again, we're going to get into this when we go through the Haggadah, but the matzah, they had to leave so quickly that there was no time for their yeast to puff up their bread. In Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 5, it says, a little leaven spoils the whole batch. Picture yeast, leaven, as sin. We know this because we have verses that relate it to sin. Okay, this is why we don't eat chametz, or bread that is puffed up, on Passover. Because to puff up something is symbolic of us being puffed up with pride, with sin. Yeshua even says, beware the leaven of the Pharisees. You have the Pharisees who were so proud of how they walked. They could talk the talk, but they didn't walk the walk. We need to beware of that ourselves. We get rid of chametz in our house. It's symbolic of sin. We get rid of chametz and pride in our house. That's why we clean up our houses. That's our mission. Okay, but you make sure there's no crumbs in your car, in your house. It's a commandment. You go, you clean up, and the very act of cleaning this up should start getting you to introspect, what am I puffed up with? What have I not dealt with? Because, you know what, in a few months' time, I'm going to be dealing with the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur. This is the start of the year. This is a new beginning. In Hebraic understanding, there was day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, Shabbat, or day 7, and then day 8, which is day 1 again. That's why 8 is symbolic of new beginnings. We have a new beginning of the cycle. This is how we start our year. Let's get rid of everything that puffs us up. The sin.
Spring cleaning.
Spring cleaning, pretty much. It's exactly spot on. Proverbs says it well. 11 verse 2, it says, when pride comes, then comes dishonor. But with the humble is wisdom. Guys, there's a point. You know, I couldn't get into one of the things I wanted to get into, but I'll do that next week. But you kind of need to ask yourself, what is the entire point of Passover? Because if you're just doing it because the Bible says do it, don't do it. No, rather don't. Do it because you want to do it. When we look at offerings next week, before I get into New Testament links, you're going to see that the Shelamim, the peace offering, which this is a way for you to have a relationship with God. Yeshua had to die for our sins. But at the same time, being a Passover lamb, he was a peace offering. So that we can start that relationship with God. So that eventually when we get to the Olah offering, when we stand in awe of God and what he's done in our lives, and what Yeshua had to do for us, we can build on that relationship. That's number 1, a relationship with God. Number 2, tells us why we should celebrate Pesach. To teach your children. To tell your children where you come from. And I'm going to end off with this. As adults that have gone through a hard time and come into faith, that's me. My BC days were horrible. I have a past, BC days. I can come in. My bondage was that. God pulled me out of that bondage. Some of us don't have a bondage that we've come from. I'm mainly referring to kids. Teenagers. Young kids. How do they relate? Well, I didn't come out of bondage. I was born in the wilderness. Or I was born in the promised land. How do they relate? If, you know, the best way to learn something is to learn it through someone else and not experience it yourself. That is wise. You should, as a kid, just because you don't have a bad past, and maybe some of you do, okay? But I'm talking about sort of self-induced, self-destructive behavior, or any sin that you've had to go through, or anything that you've had to deal with. Some of you haven't had that. But it doesn't mean that this cannot be something for you. You need to remember where your parents came from, or the people that look after you came from. Learn from them, see what they had to go through. Because I promise you, they went through a lot.
Of course, that's interesting, because there is a serious teaching at school level now, and I know this from my youngest daughter, that they actually motivate the kids to tell their parents that, Daddy, we or Mommy, we've got experience for ourselves. We've got to make our own mistakes. It's a big
testimony plays this role. Testimony, kids, listen up, listen nicely to me. The world will tell you, go do whatever you want to do. That's going to lead you into Mitzrayim, I'm telling you now. That's going to just do this perpetual cycle. That's what I was told. Go do whatever you want to do. Live your life. You've got to try something. At least once. I've tried a lot of things many times. Okay? It's not a good thing. Oh, no, sorry, I'll do it through that. The point is, you need to learn through your parents. Did David have a hard time when he was a kid? Not really. No. What do we know from him? He was the youngest of all of them. Yet, he was a man after God's heart. He didn't have a rough time to go through before he decided to follow God. Did he? No. Yet he still faced giants.
And he made blunders later.
Yeah, we all make mistakes. But the point is this. He didn't have to learn the hard way. You don't have to learn the hard way, kids, I'm telling you. Okay? Learn through your parents. The testimonies are real. They went through it, and they've made it out alive. Thank you, Abba. Okay? But, again, painted this. The entire story of this, and I'm ending with this, guys, 1 minute. The entire story of this is a story of redemption. We're going to go through that. It is a story of redemption. God pulling His people out of bondage for a purpose. You know, one of my favorite verses is it's Deuteronomy 33 verse 26, and it says, "There is no God like the God of Jeshurun, who rides on the heavens to come help you." Jeshurun is a poetic name for Israel. Yaakov. When Yeshua comes down on the clouds, it's going to be hectic, but at the end of the day, it's going to be helpful. God wants to help us. God wants to pull us out. He heard the people cry, and He came down, and He pulled them out. Let this be a time for God to deal with you, to pull you out of whatever you are battling with, where you need to let go of certain things, learn from older people, get rid of whatever's puffing you up, and move forward, because this is the start. This sacrifice is the start of a peace offering for the Israelites, where they can spend time with God. And you're going to see that throughout. Okay? Any questions, comments?
Just one thing. The 10th plague, death of the firstborn.
Yes.
Jehovah says that the firstborn belonged to Him.
Yeah, afterwards, yeah.
And Israel had to redeem their firstborn of both the animals and their children.
Yes.
And they were killed because they refused to accept the peace offering made through the blood of the Lamb.
Sorry, it just clicked. It goes one step further. The firstborn, or at least the firstborn male, was always the one that inherited. So it means your inheritance stops here.
Well, Pharaoh's firstborn would have taken over, right?
Yep. Your
There's an
inheritance
end
stops
to
here.
that as well.
But would he have taken up because he would have been dead?
Well, he's dead now, yeah. If he wasn't killed, he would have died.
Okay, burning to say that. She said that sometimes you feel like you don't belong. And plague 9 to me was, when plague 4, 5, and 6 hit, God showed the people that I distinguish between Egyptians and my people. And in between, people started leaving and crossing over to the other side. And when plague 10 hit, those who went to the other side could see that God has accepted them.
And it's hard. It's hard to cross over. It's a hard decision to leave what you know. Yeah?
What was the deity of plague 10?
Well, it was Pharaoh himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been Pharaoh himself. Alright. I've really gone over time, so I'm going to do the priestly blessing on you guys. Please all stand. I don't know what's happened with this life. Clearly